I just purchased a brand new home. Welcome to it. This is something that I've been working towards for a long time now. It wasn't easy. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I got here, how I ended up purchasing this house, how difficult it was when I started my business, and the entire journey from when I started up until now. I want to share this with you because I don't want to tell you just what you want to hear, but I want to tell you what you will probably run into and some of the hardships that you have to overcome when you're building a business like this. But if you want the life of your dreams, I don't feel like there's a better way than to build a business. If you haven't seen this face before, my name is Chris. I've grown my own online coaching businesses to 7 figures, selling to some of the hardest markets like broke musicians. So if I can be successful in that industry, I know you can be successful in yours, and I'm here to help anybody that wants to do that. I started my business in 2021, but before that, I tried for 10 years trying to make music my career in some way or another, whether it was selling beats, producing for other people, wanting to be a guitarist, be in a band. I tried so many different avenues, and the craziest part is I tried all of this on my own, thinking that I could figure it out because there was so much information on the internet. There's so much information on YouTube. You would just wonder why you would ever go to school or pay anybody to learn anything because all the information is at your fingertips. We have more information now than we've ever had in all of human society, yet so many of us are still not able to accomplish our goals. So what that tells me is that information is not the only thing that you need in order to be successful, because information without action is just taking up more storage in your brain. It was about 2014, 2015. I had just gotten a new job that was quote unquote a really good job. Not a really good job, but a very average job, I guess, but it was a good paying job. It's what people would consider a good living, $60,000 to $70,000 a year. At the same time, I had just purchased a different house, our first house. I had just gotten the news that we were having a kid. And this comes from somebody who's been a degenerate their whole life. They haven't gone to school, dropped out of school, never been around kids, don't know anything about being a father. I started a new job, got a brand new mortgage, got a brand new child under my roof. I mean, that's what most people go through, so I'm not gonna say that it's anything out of the ordinary. But it was a major shift in my life at the time, and I was maybe 24. Coming from somebody who just got in trouble all the time, drank, did drugs, to being somebody who needs to be responsible for other people's lives. So it was a tough transition for me. But during that time, I had worked a couple jobs. I worked at Subway, and then I worked at Rite Aid, the pharmacy, and then now I worked at the inpatient pharmacy at Kaiser Permanente. I was an IV technician, so I worked in pharmacy, but I also mixed a lot of the IVs for the people in the hospital. So from 2015 up until 21, I had worked this job, and at one point, I remember, I think it was a couple years in, I was working and I was filling some medication, and I just remember speaking to one of my coworkers, and I just remember the entire room started spinning. My arms went completely numb and my fingertips were tingling, and I did not know what was going on. And that was the first time I had ever experienced a panic attack. Mind you, up until this point, I thought a panic attack or anxiety wasn't even real. I thought it was something that girls said in high school to act dramatic and try to get their way. I never thought it was a truly real thing. So I had assumed that I was having a heart attack. I assumed that it was blood pressure. I assumed that it was diabetes. I assumed the worst of everything because I didn't believe that anxiety was a real thing. It wasn't even on my mind at the time. I remember having to leave work, go to the ER, go to urgent care over the weeks of just like constant panic, and I wasn't sure what was going on, and I truly thought it was something wrong with my heart. I had an EKG. I remember panicking in the ER waiting room, just like begging the person to see a doctor because I didn't know what was going on. The doctors also couldn't figure it out because how do you figure out like it's an anxiety attack, you know what I mean? So every time I went back to that job, every time I stepped into the door, there was that trigger. I'd constantly have anxiety. I wouldn't be able to see. Everything was a blur. My fingertips got numb. I was sweaty. I just didn't know what was going on. I couldn't even walk into this building anymore without my body shutting down, is what it felt like. So finally, my doctor was like, maybe it's anxiety. We tried different antidepressants. We just kept constantly testing it until we found one that fit for me, which took years. I'm saying it in a sentence, but it took years. They were trying to avoid putting me on benzodiazepines because it was so addicting. I ended up on Klonopin, and I was on Klonopin for years. It took me a year to fully taper off. I would cut the pill into tiny, tiny little fractions and slowly taper my way down. It was the most miserable experience ever. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew is I could not have the monotony of my life of going to the same job over and over until I was 65 or beyond, and then I could finally take a break and retire. But if I retired, the economy, and I wasn't making very much money, I would have been living so scarcely off of my savings, retirement, that I would have never lived a comfortable life. And that thought just scared me so bad that I had to figure something out. So I was always constantly looking for new opportunities. I remember seeing an ad from my first mentor, and he was talking about how you could sell your education and you could sell the knowledge that you knew in your brain. And at this point, remember, I had been a musician my entire life. I went into this crazy research mode where I would dig deeper and deeper and deeper into like, what is high ticket sales? What is this coaching business? What is education online, courses? A ton of people were doing this. I saw other musicians that I knew do this. So I just dug deep. And I finally at one point was like, okay, I'm really wanting to do something like this. I remember booking a call with my first mentor, and I remember being so ready to invest $1,000 because I thought that was a lot of money at the time. I was like, I'm ready to go. I got $1,000 in my bank. Felt like a big shot. I was like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to change my life. I got on that call with a mentor, and he said it was $15,000. But it was $10,000 if I acted today and signed up on the phone. Most people were like, oh, that's so salesy. That's just a trick. They're just trying to trick you, stuff like that. All I knew was if I would have gotten off that call and didn't pay the $10,000, there was no way I was coming back to pay $15,000. I would have talked myself out of it. Every fear in my head would have popped up, and I would have made all the excuses to not get back on the phone. And at this point, I wanted nothing more than to hang up the phone and pretend like I got disconnected and never get in contact with these people again, because it was 10 times more than I thought I was going to pay, and I already thought I was going to pay a lot. All I knew though was in that moment when I was on the phone silent with the salesperson, I was just thinking in my head, if I do this, it's going to cost me $10K. If I decide not to do this, it would cost me a life of regret, working until I was 65, my entire life, to this one place that kept giving me panic attacks every time I walked in the door. I had to weigh those options, which one cost more. I took the risk. I paid the $10K that I didn't have, mind you. I took out a loan, I borrowed money from people, I took out money from my savings, and I put down that $10K. And as soon as I stepped into that program, I did every single thing that that coach told me to do, even the things that were extremely uncomfortable and I would have never done in a million years if I had paid $1,000 for it. So it pushed me beyond my boundaries that I never knew I could even tap into. Just to slow things down a bit, I signed up for this program right around the time the pandemic happened. I remember getting a new fridge for our house, carrying it into the garage, putting it down. I laid down on the couch and I didn't get back up for like a week. I had gotten COVID and watched on the TV saying that there was this virus that just broke out. I worked in a hospital, so it was a high-risk area. My girlfriend and my kid went up to the in-laws an hour away, and I didn't see them for like 2 months from that point. And all I did was lay down. I had no idea the world was collapsing around me. I remember trying to build this business, doing all these things that I hated doing. I had to do this live webinar to test out and make sure that people wanted to buy my program before I actually built it. So I'd never done anything live before, so that was already like terrifying in itself. But at the same time, things just kept happening. The pandemic happened. I couldn't see my family. We had to sell our house because we weren't sure if my girlfriend was going to keep her job. We weren't sure if I was going to get laid off. We weren't sure what was going to happen. I couldn't see my family. At the same time, I was trying to build this business so we could get out of this situation. There was so much motivation that to make this thing happen that I did every single thing that I could, every uncomfortable action. I'm trying to like pull everything from my memory, but I remember at the same time, pandemic happened, we were losing our jobs, we had to sell our house. I mean, I remember someone trying to break into our window upstairs. There was packages being taken from our front door. I remember going to work one day and someone had drilled a hole in my gas tanks and siphoned all of my gas. So I ran out of gas halfway there, having to run up the road, grab a gas can, fill it, just to notice that gas was pouring out of the bottom of my can. I had to get it towed. There was all sorts of things that happened. Plus, at the same time, Oregon was getting lit on fire. There was massive fires all around us. We were packing up thinking that we were gonna lose the house because we had to evacuate. And at the same time too, my grandma had a major stroke at the retirement home that she was in, and she was in the hospital and nobody could see her. We drove down for 10 hours just to get turned away and realized that we couldn't even go in. There was no visitors because of the pandemic. So my 90-year-old grandma was in there, had a major stroke, all alone. The doctors were saying she wasn't gonna make it. She's turning 97 this year, and she's been getting better and better, but she had a major stroke. I was trying to create my webinar during this time. Everything was falling apart around me, and nothing was going well for me. But guess what I did? I had to press on. I had to keep doing these uncomfortable actions that I didn't want to while my life was falling apart. So I kept going up until 2021. I was working on call at this time, meaning that I just got called in every once in a while. And I finally decided to take the leap and quit my job because I had this plan. I executed everything. I created this program. I built my following, and I just kept working and working and working and working. And my one goal, my biggest goal since we sold our house, was to buy another house for my family and I. This was my North Star for the longest time ever. It's 2025 now, and between 21 and 25, I had made quite a bit of money, but I wasn't used to having a lot of money. So I was blowing money left and right. I would go to music festivals, I would go to clubs, and I would buy everybody drinks. I was like, drink for you, drink for you, drink for you. I have no idea who you are. And I was just blowing money. And I just bought up so much dumb stuff because I wasn't used to making money. My first 10K month, gone. First 20K month, gone. First 30K month, gone. Like, you would get excited when you hit a new threshold and you would spend it all. Hit a new threshold, spend it all. New threshold, spend it all. It took me a long time before I realized this money isn't necessarily coming forever. It's not infinite, and that I should probably save money and do something with it, especially if I want to buy a house. So honestly, a lot of my money has just been, I don't know where it is. It's been spent. I'm not saying that I'm the worst with money because I have saved money and I've gotten myself to this position where I could buy a house, but I feel like I could have done better. But that's the great part, is like you're learning new skills all along the entire way of your journey. People say mindset is important, and then it's hard because it's not tangible, so you don't really know. So you think it's all this foo-foo, woo-woo, fluff stuff. But honestly, each new level that you hit, you have to acquire a new way of thinking about that action to be able to tap into the next level. Because if you think the same way that everybody else does that is an employee, you'll never be able to reach the levels of an entrepreneur. Employees are risk averse, they save. Entrepreneurs have to take major risks, hoping for a bigger reward, and they constantly have to put their own money and their own self-discipline on the line. If I didn't learn all these different mindset behavior shifts along the way, I don't think I would be able to be in this house comfortably. And even if I got in a house, I would have blown all my money and I wouldn't have been able to pay for my bills. So there's a lot of learning along the way, and there's a lot of growing as an individual. If I think back at just 5 years ago and how much I've changed, I forget about it because I'm so close to my life. I'm living it day to day that I don't realize how many drastic changes that I've made, but I am a completely different human today than I was 5 years ago. But the 5 year ago version of me wasn't a whole lot different than the 10 year ago version of me. I mean, obviously you change a lot as you grow up, but there was a big change from the last 5 years ever since I became a business owner. I want to share this story with you because I want you to understand that the business part, the tactics, marketing, sales, those are all very important, but those aren't hard. There's frameworks to them. You say this, you do this, you get this. The hard part is becoming that type of person that can do these things without the resistance in your own mind. And the behaviors that you have to change to become the person that can actually keep the money. Making the money is one thing, keeping it is really hard. But I can't tell you, there is nothing that I would take back from the last 5 years, besides maybe selling our old house. I wish that was an investment now. But there's nothing I would take back from all these learning lessons, all the money that I had spent. I've spent over a couple $100,000 on mentorship and just learning in the last few years. And I would not take back any of it. Every single thing was worth it. If somebody handed me this house 5 years ago, I would not know how to maintain. I would not know how to make up the money. I would not know how to save. I would not be the type of person that can own this type of house. And the last 4 or 5 years have been so frustrating because this has been my biggest goal. But honestly, if it was handed to me any earlier, I don't think I would have been able to be capable of keeping it. So I made this all sound real bad, but like what I'm saying is there is a lot of hard work involved when you create a business. It's not just the tactical things. It's the person that you have to become. But once you're on the other side, I'm not gonna say I'm on the other side. I'm gonna say that I've passed a threshold and there's only growth from here, as always. But you end up becoming the person that is able to create the life that you want. And I have so much freedom now, and I have so much security knowing that I've become the type of person that knows how to make money and how to never have any financial issues again. Because if someone gave you a bag of money, you're in trouble. But if someone gave you the skills to make bags of money, you're never gonna be in trouble again. We just bought this house. In about the weekend after next, we're leaving the country. We're going to Japan, we're going on vacation, we're going to Korea for 3 weeks. And I can do that. I can work from there if I wanted to. I don't have to work from there if I don't want to. There's nothing that can replace the skill set of knowing you could lose everything and build it all back up again. Knowing that you can create money from thin air means that your people don't starve. There's so much power in creating a business, and especially something that's online, something that's remote, something that you don't have to sell physical product. Since I've built an email list, I've built a following, I have attention, and I can create offers that don't require physical products. At any point, I could decide, hey, I wanna run a masterclass, I wanna run a challenge, I wanna run a webinar, and I could just pick a date, I could get everybody there, I could sell them something that is valuable to them, that makes me money, and I could print money. It's just money that falls from the air. That can't be replaced. And it's not just the money, it's what the money gets you. I'm not here for paper. I'm here doing this because it buys me the freedom, the options to do whatever I want. I hope this gives you a little bit of insight to show you that it's not easy, but it's 100% worth it. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're an educator, you're a coach, teacher, anything like that, it's 100% worth it. I would not be here filming this if it wasn't for my ability to sell knowledge on the internet to other people and change their lives, which changes my life as a side effect. If you want to learn how to create your own high ticket offer, if you coach, you're an expert at anything in your industry, I'm going to leave a link down below to a free training that explains how you can build your own high ticket offer, how to do marketing and sales to attract the people that are actually willing to pay you. I'll leave that in the description. Hopefully this gave you some insight to show you what's possible and that you can do it for yourself, because I'm just an ordinary guy as well. Hit subscribe, share this with somebody that needs to hear this, and I will see you in the next video.